Hi, welcome to Colonel Samuel Smith Park. My name is Terry Smith, and I'm a member of Friends of Sam Smith Park. Lots of Smiths there, but I don't think any of us are related. We call the park Sam Smith Park. We find Colonel Samuel Smith a little bit of a mouthful. No offense to the dear Colonel. And we want to welcome you to the Swallow Field, which you can see in front of you. The Friends of Sam Smith Park, we're a local community group of people who live close to the park and park users who whose goal is to protect and enhance and promote the natural areas of the park. We're great believers in the ability of easily accessible nature to heal the physical, the mental, and the spiritual and emotional soul. And in fact, it's kind of interesting because the historical heritage of the site, Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital, has exactly that in its history. And so we fiercely defend the natural areas in the park, and as we explore the Swallow Field, I'm sure you'll feel the same way too. So this is the Swallow Field you see in front of us, and yeah, I think you can see a couple of swallows there on the box in front. The tree swallows who live in this field, who breed in this field, they're one of 5 species that are known to have bred in the park. The others are the rough-winged swallow, the barn swallow, the cliff swallow, and the bank swallow. And the swallows here, the tree swallows, they are one of the first to arrive in this part of the world from their winter grounds in the south. And one of the reasons for that is because they don't winter quite as far south as the other swallows. They're just they're down in the southern states in Central America, so they have a pretty short journey, relatively speaking, to get back to their favorite place, which is the Sam Smith Park Swallow Field. So in the field here we have nearly 70 boxes. The boxes started off as a project about 10 years ago. We used to build them with kids. When I say we, Friends of Sam Smith Park, we used to build them with kids at our annual Spring Bird Festival. But of course, when the box was made, the young person wanted to take the box home, only natural. And we had a hard time explaining to them, no, I'm sorry, it's got to stay for the birds. But they wanted to, so we had to abandon that. And ever since then, we have been making take-home wooden projects for the kids that have bird focuses, like bird feeders and so forth. So the wooden boxes, the wood kits, were provided by the Conservation Authority, TRCA. Thank you, TRCA, who also have allowed us to become the nest monitors for this site, which I believe is unique in the GTA. I don't know of any other large conglomeration of tree swallow nest boxes. Pretty unique. So over the years we've been adding to them, and we think this is a wonderful location. The swallows certainly seem to think so. They're always in a hurry to get back here in ever increasing numbers every year. One of the reasons for that is it's a nice open area for flying and catching insects, and it's also next to a body of water. The marina here is very close. And the birds really like to be near the water. Probably the main reason for that is because they're primarily aerial insectivores. They eat insects in flight. And many insects that they eat have life cycles that involve emerging from the water, and they all seem to emerge at the same time. And the swallows, you'll often see them in groups, large groups, flying low over the water, grabbing the insects as they emerge. The boxes, it's very important to build a box that has the right dimensions. Tree swallows like a certain depth of box and width and length and so forth, and the hole is also very critical. Some people put up homemade boxes hoping to attract them, and they just won't work. The hole has to be just enough for them to squeeze through, and the idea is that it's the minimum possible to discourage predators that might try to enter the holes as well. The poles, the meadow that you see here is an important part of the ecology of the park. We have quite a few grassland birds that pass through during migration. We get bobolinks and meadowlarks here. We have savanna sparrows that we pretty sure do also breed in this field. And we also have in the field there are garter snakes and small rodents which provide food for the different hawks that live in and around the park. We have Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks. I just want to mention one thing. The poles all look wonky. People ask me, why are they so wonky? Well, we try to put them in straight, the T-bars, the metal T-bars, we try to bang them in straight, but this is a lake-filled park, so the soil, the surface soil is quite shallow, and underneath are a lot of rubble and asphalt and so on. And metal and rock, when you bang them in, they decide themselves where they want to go, and try as we might, we can never get them straight. So the question is that people ask often is why do the swallows need boxes? Why do you go to the effort of putting up these nesting boxes? So the answer to that is that although the tree swallow is not an endangered species, there has been significant decline. I believe I read recently maybe 50% since the 60s. And there's a number of reasons for that. The first one probably, or maybe the second one, is the fact that they're, as we mentioned before, they're aerial insectivores. They catch insects on the wing. And there are fewer insects around. You probably, those of you who are old enough, remember the old days when you came back from a drive in the country, your windshield on your car was covered in insects. Well, you don't get that so much anymore. I think there was a book called The Moth Storm written about exactly that. There are fewer insects. Reasons: pollution, overuse of agricultural chemicals, pesticides, insecticides, and so on. Also, probably climate change, global warming has some aspects to do with that as well. So that's one of the reasons why we've seen a population decline. But probably the more important one, and brings us back to the boxes, is that nesting opportunities are much scarcer than they used to be. These are tree swallows. They nest in cavities in old trees, typically woodpecker holes. And there are just fewer of those. We've been managing woodlands for a couple of hundred years now. We tend to chop down trees. We tend to take down old ones, particularly old ones in wetlands or on the edge of wetlands, which are very preferred nesting sites for these birds. A lot of these get taken down. We drain wetlands. We alter the landscape so much. So that's probably the main reason why the boxes. Luckily, the tree swallow, as you can see and hear, will take quite nicely to man-made boxes. They seem very comfortable, even with human beings relatively close. They're very comfortable living together. This field is, an example of that. So the boxes here and the young that have been reared in it over the years, it's our little part, Friends of South Etobicoke Park, little part to address that imbalance somewhat. They're also incredibly photogenic birds. They are so beautiful. The male is iridescent color on the back and white underparts. The female, pretty much the same, a little browner, a little less striking. These birds are wonderfully photogenic. We get lots of photographers. The families love to walk through the field in the evening with their kids, and the birds allow them to get fairly close. So in our minds, these birds are kind of like Sam Smith Park ambassadors. What they do is they cement in people's minds, maybe not even birders, people who don't know a lot about bird species and so on, but it cements in their mind that Sam Smith Park is a place for nature. You can go there and you can see wild creatures in natural or relatively natural habitats. Yeah, so every spring the boxes need to be prepared for the returning swallows. That involves repairing. They do wear down with weather. We also empty out the old nesting material. We use a stick to remove the most of the material, and then we use wire brushes to brush the inside to remove any any residue on the inside of the box, and then we sanitize it with a solution of vinegar and water, and close up the box, and we let it sit like that, and hopefully the vinegar doesn't put the swallows off. It doesn't seem to have so far. We've even had some times when we've been a little bit late getting them ready and sprayed the inside of the box with the vinegar solution, and the swallows are fighting to get into the box just as we walk away. They don't seem to mind this strong odor of fish and chips. It doesn't seem to bother them at all. Maybe they like it, I don't know. So we sometimes have to evict field mice from the boxes. Sometimes there are some wasps that obviously overwintered inside the box. I always feel a little bit bad when we send the field mice on their way. Sometimes they're in pairs and they go off in different directions, and all I can do is hope that they do eventually meet up together at some point. But they got to go. The boxes have to be ready. This year, after we'd clean them out, we put small cardboard covers over the holes, and I'll tell you why in a little while. The swallows, the tree swallows, they arrive really early, as I mentioned before. They don't have as far to fly, and in fact, they're starting to arrive the last week of March. It's a very strange sight to see these swallows coming in largish groups while it's snowing. And we have images that people have taken of the swallows on branches all huddled together with the snow falling around them before the beginning of April. They have a food advantage which helps with that. They are I think the only swallow species that has in their diet quite a large amount of plant material. They will eat berries and seeds and whatever else they can get off the bushes in the ground. And even when insects are abundant, about 20% of their diet does comprise plant material. So they can exist on plant material even before the insects have hatched and are out and about. The males arrive first, and there's a lot of scrapping in order to claim a box, and they will proudly sit on top of the box and wait for the females to arrive, and they'll defend their boxes as vigorously as they can. And courtship begins, and the females will pair up with the males. The males are they have about 10% of their population. I think the word is polygamous. They can have a couple of nest boxes going at the same time. I don't think the females do that, but the males do. And I'm not judging or anything like that. The pairs of swallows there, from what I understand, they're not loyal to each other. They only live a few years, but they are loyal to nesting sites. And I think we've witnessed that over the years, because there always seem to be more swallows every year. So we're assuming that the same ones, if they're still alive and able to, are returning, but more importantly, the offspring are returning to this site. So, as I said before, these are primarily aerial insectivores, and each adult will consume approximately 2,000 insects a day, and they vary in size from a small gnat to a grasshopper. Now, when they're young in the boxes, that number can go up to about 6,000 insects a day. So they consume a lot, and many of the bugs that they eat are ones that pester human beings, so they serve that function as well. They drink and bathe while in flight, and you may have seen other swallow species as well doing this. They'll fly low over the water and appear to hit it. So what they're doing is they're grabbing a drink. If they seem to hit it a little harder, they're probably having a bath. They do this in flight. They also love to, that's called skimming, by the way. They also like to fly low over the water when the insects are emerging, and that is something that's a common sight for lots of people. So they're very social, colonial nesters. They don't mind being really close to each other. They seem to enjoy each other's company, but often you'll see them flying in the air and almost playing games. They'll fly in a group of 3 or 4 up to a point, and they'll also squabble and push each other around and take off, and kind of like the snowbirds, do when they come together and take off in their different flight paths and then reassemble again. They do this quite a lot. They seem to be a happy bird. They're always, twittering away and talking and communicating. Very delightful to hear. Their nests are primarily grass, but they also have a big fondness for white feathers, large white feathers, which might also be one of the reasons why they like areas beside the water. No one really knows why they choose to line their nests with large white feathers. Their eggs are white, which possibly could explain that. Maybe it's a camouflage thing to make it harder for any creature coming in to see the eggs. Not really sure, but it's very characteristics of their nests. They also seem to value white feathers as prizes, because they'll often, one bird coming back to its box with a white feather about to enter will be bombed by another one who will try to grab it from that one. It's almost as though these are precious items not to be wasted. But other times you see a bird fly in the air and drop a white feather. Another one will pick it up, swoop up a little higher, drop it again, and another bird will come in and catch it. So it's quite confusing behavior and not really completely understood. So they will lay about 4 to 7 eggs, and incubation takes about 2 weeks for the eggs to hatch. And the young, they stay in their nests for about 3 weeks before they're ready to leave. Both males and females feed the young. So, what harm can befall our lovely little friends in this field during the nesting season? Well, the biggest problem that we have come across so far is occupancy of the boxes by the house sparrow, sometimes called the English sparrow. These birds are extremely aggressive. They're very competitive for nesting opportunities. They're also a little heavier and larger than the swallow. And the tree swallow is really no match at all for the house sparrow. The house sparrow is a non-native species. It was introduced to North America by, I think, homesick English settlers a couple of hundred years ago. I believe 8 were released in New York, and the house sparrows have become now the most abundant songbird in North America. So they want to nest in these boxes too. They're cavity nesters as well. And I mentioned before that after the clean out of the boxes and the sterilizing and so on, we put little covers over the entrance holes, and we did that in order to stop the sparrows from getting a foothold before the swallows arrived. We figured that once they had a nest with maybe young in it, that they would defend it even more vigorously. And then when the swallows arrived, we took the covers off. So that maybe has helped somewhat this year, but really our only fallback is to evict sparrows when we see them building nests in the boxes. They're non-native. They're not protected under the Migratory Bird Convention Act, whereas tree swallows, of course, are indigenous. They're native and they are protected. So we just remove the nest. We would never remove a nest with nestlings in it. The unfortunate thing is, and we've come across this at least 3 or 4 times this year already, is that these sparrows will often enter a box that's already occupied by tree swallows, where they've started building a nest, and killed the female in the nest, even sitting on eggs. And they have these sharp, strong bills that they're adapted for opening grains and seeds and so on. They're very powerful, and they just kill the swallow with blows to the head and the neck, and it's a horrible sight to come across this bird. They will even, and this is hard to imagine, they will even build their own nest on top of a dead swallow on her nest and lay eggs and raise young in there. One boggles at the kind of smell there must be as the heat builds up in there. So we do try to evict them where we can. So that is one threat. The other threat is there's a house sparrow right there. I don't know if you can see that. That sparrow's landed on a box, and luckily I was stood here. They are incredibly persistent. So we're hoping for a sparrow occupancy of less than 20% this year. If it gets too high, then you wonder whether the project's in fact viable. I just saw a tree swallow just chase off a sparrow. They sometimes will give them a good fight back, especially when they've started building their nest. The other predators that could possibly harm the tree swallows are, we have some Cooper's hawks and sharp-shinned hawks around. They might grab a bird off the top of a box. Opossums, raccoons, they'll reach into a box. Sometimes they'll chew the entrance hole a little bit larger to get in there. But the real big problem is mankind. We talked before about our effect on insect populations, so that's a problem. But immediately in the field, the problem right now is, besides theft and vandalism, which fortunately is not too big here in the park, but we have had it, is the use of drones in the park. We have come across a number of instances where people will fly drones, and I'm sure they're just curious, they want to get closer, they want to know what the birds are doing, and they fly in really, really close. Now, in Toronto parks, it's not, according to what we understand, illegal to fly a drone, but it certainly is illegal to harass wildlife. So if ever you see anyone with a drone flying over any of the nesting birds in the park or any of the wildlife and harassing them, then you must call 311, the city's bylaw officer line, and report immediately what you see. So that's about it. Thank you for coming today, visually and digitally. Is that the right word? Digitally? Virtually, that's the right word I'm looking for. To our visit to the Swallow Field in Sam Smith Park. Please come down and check it out for yourself. You won't regret it. Come later in the day, in the evening, when the swallows are quite active, and wander through the field. Now, normally I would give out one of my lovely tree swallow popping his head out of a nesting box badges to people who come on a swallow talk into the field to me, but I can't do that right now. So we're going to do this virtually. There's the badge. If you're in the park and you see me, Terry Smith, please ask for a badge and I'll happily give you one. And again, thank you very much, and we'll say goodbye. I hope you enjoy the video. As amateurish as it is, we did our best. Bye-bye.